All right. Thank y'all so much for coming. I'm going to wait for everybody to kind of find their digital seats, so to speak. Make sure your audio is working, all of that great stuff. While you're getting settled, you should be able to see on the screen that we would love for you to put your first name, where you're joining us from, and one burning question you want answered by the end of this event in the chat. We would love to get that answered for you. We want to make sure this is a great use of your time, that you get answers to the questions you may have. My name is Jordan Goodnature. I'm Assistant Director of Enrollment Management here at the Garland School, and I'm joined by some of my colleagues. The first of which I'll introduce is Associate Dean of Academic Affairs, Melody Zuniga.
Hello, thank you for the introduction. I'm Melody York Zuniga. I'm the Associate Dean for Academic Affairs, which means I have the honor and privilege of overseeing the work done by our great directors and assistant directors and teams for our BSW program and our MSW program on both our campuses, as well as all the financial aid and recruitment and retention efforts that are a part of those programs. So I'm really glad to be here today and get to answer some questions. And I will introduce my colleague, Curtis Isosaki, our Director of Enrollment and Alumni Services.
Hello, everyone. I'm Curtis Isozaki, Director of Enrollment and Alumni Services. And really, the snapshot of what I get to do is I get to journey with students into the university, from it, and then at it, and then from it. And such a joy to journey alongside students and be a part of such an amazing team as we kind of process your applications, have these awesome webinars, and really see you thrive here at Baylor University in the Garland School of Social Work. Back to you, Jordan.
Thank you. We're also joined by our Recruitment and Alumni Services Coordinator, Zachary Winterroad, if you want to introduce yourself quickly as well.
Hi, everyone. I'm Zach. As Jordan said, I am the Recruitment and Alumni Services Coordinator. I am helping out kind of whenever and wherever is needed. Right now, that looks like recruitment for the online MSW. Soon, that's going to be like recruitment for the PhD. I also do a lot of work doing marketing, web design, and communications and things like that.
Thank you so much. So as you can see, we have an all-star team on deck today for you to tell you more about financial aid. And that is what we're going to talk about. So we hope in this webinar that we cover everything you need to know about the financial aid opportunities here at the Garland School of Social Work at Baylor University, because we know that often your deciding factor is going to come down to cost. So we want to give you all the information you need to make the most informed decision for you that's going to be the best for you. And hopefully that means that you end up here at our school. By the end of this presentation, I want you to think about pursuing your MSW, especially pursuing it here at Baylor, as an investment in your future. We know that graduate school at the end of the day is an investment. So while we talk about the technical pieces, the ins and outs of how to afford your degree, I also want you to be thinking about graduate school as an investment. And with that in mind, what makes our program, what makes Baylor worth your investment? So while you think about that and continue to put your first name, where you're joining from, and a question you want answered by this presentation, we're going to go ahead and start talking about how we handle financial aid here at the Garland School. And we have a really unique process. So in our process, we allow you to communicate your unique needs and take your specific financial situation into account. We have a holistic application review, and I know I've seen a few folks who have submitted their applications in the Zoom, which is super, super exciting. And just like we have that holistic review, we consider multiple factors when we're reviewing you for financial aid. We also lean into some of these individual conversations. So at the Garland School, we have a faculty-student ratio of 10-1. We have an average class size of 15. You can tell by those numbers that we really want to make sure you're getting a personalized experience, and financial aid is no different. We want to give you the ability to raise your hand and say, this is my situation, and here's what I will need to make this work. And while we can't guarantee we can always make everything work for everyone, we have the ability to have those conversations with you. So that brings us to our financial aid opportunities, and this is where I will pass it off to Associate Dean Zuniga.
Yes, thank you so much. So I want to take a little bit of time to explain how we will look at particularly the financial aid that we're able to offer from the Garland School of Social Work individually. So there's going to be our own financial aid as well as financial aid outside of us. We don't control the ones outside of us, but we want to point you to the resources that you can use to start finding additional sources, as well as explain how we can be a part of supporting you financially. So with the Garland School, or GSSW for short, financial aid, there's a couple of ways that comes together. You're going to see reference to departmental aid. And when we say that, we're talking about the funds we have to use to award you money that particularly is from our department, that we have our own ability to make decisions around. And there's two sources of that departmental aid. One is going to be a discount, and one is going to be dollars that are actually added into um, your fund that you'll have, as you're starting to get a bill, your account. I was trying to think of the word there. So the discount that we can give, you're going to hear it referred to as tuition remission. That one's fun because it rhymes, or a tuition discount. So when we talk about tuition remission or a tuition discount, that is a certain percentage that we can discount. So if you owed $10,000 and we said we're going to give you a 10% tuition remission or tuition discount, that means $1,000 of that $10,000 charge we would discount for you so that you only owed $9,000, for example. Okay, so there's a tuition discount that we can give. And then there are specific scholarships dedicated to the School of Social Work by our very generous donors that support the important work that you're studying to do. And those scholarship dollars would get added into your account like money. So it plays with the balance, right? So you have charges based on the number of hours that you register for. You could get some discounted if we awarded you tuition remission, or you could get some dollars added in to pay that balance in a scholarship. So we'll talk a little bit about the steps to getting those. You don't have to know all of that to be, or have all those things filled out to be accepted into the program, but you do have to do some of the steps we'll talk about in order to receive the aid, if you are interested in that. So we have the departmental aid from either the tuition discount or a specific scholarship that you are eligible for. And then we also have graduate assistantships that pay money for hours worked. So if you fill out in March, our students that are accepted by that point will get information about being a graduate assistant. So you could get assigned to a faculty member or a staff member and be a part of the work they're doing. I have a graduate assistant working for me, looking at different kinds of policies and things related to higher education to make sure we're as up to date as we can be on accessibility and preparation for our program, those kinds of things. And then even our enrollment office has graduate assistants working for them, helping answer questions to students. So we have people working with faculty, helping them do research. So there's all kinds of opportunities there that pays an hourly rate for the hours you work. And generally, students work about 10 hours a week in their GA position and can earn money that way. And that money gets added to your account as well to help lower that balance that you're paying. So those are the ways that the Garland School contributes to financial aid. So there's three pieces, two that form that departmental aid, a tuition discount or a scholarship, or some combination of the two, depending on your situation. And then the graduate assistant stipend that you can earn by filling out. There's a process to apply, have an interview, and then get placed in a position, and that will earn you hourly money. So that's the Garland School sources of funding for you. Then there's also outside funds. So this is where you get to kind of put on your detective hat and sleuth out there and see, where can I add other sources of funding to help me get the bills paid? Because with the Garland School Financial Aid, we try to help lower the cost, but we aren't providing most of the cost. That's where students need to realize most of the costs, the highest percentage, is going to come from money you pull together outside of the Garland School. So for many people, that looks like loans, federal loans, private loans, those kinds of things. Sometimes there are scholarships through social work organizations. One of those possible organizations to look into as you're applying is CSWE. We have it listed in that bullet point there. That stands for the Council on Social Work Education. They accredit schools of social work across the United States, and sometimes they have scholarships available for students from certain kinds of backgrounds or fields of interest or experiences. They have different scholarships that might be a match for you. So that's a place to look. The National Association of Social Workers might be a place to look, or other kinds of organizations doing helping work across your area or across the United States. Look into those organizations to hunt down where there might be scholarships there too. And then these additional sources, you might know about ones that we don't, but we'll talk in a little bit about a resource called Scholarship Universe that is a great way to find some of those as well. Okay, so applying for aid, these are the steps we talked about that some people fill all this out while they're applying for the program, and some people wait to see if they get in, and then when they get accepted, kind of take it from there. Either way is okay, but you will need to meet some deadlines to make sure certain kinds of levels or incentives or due dates are met in order to receive those funds. One of those is the GSSW financial aid form. That is a form that we will send you. You'll have a link given to you, and it asks you some questions about the kind of social work that you want to do, your goals in the profession. There's a few different categories of social work that might help us get more information, like your interest in working with older adults or not, or working with diverse populations, or working with um, groups, congregations, or other kind of religious bodies. We'll ask you some different questions to help us understand more about what draws you to social work and what you've already done and what you're interested in doing, so that we can try to match you with a variety of scholarships that have different eligibility things. So you never know where there might be a scholarship that wants people that want to work internationally, or want to work with children, or want to work with people who have experienced trauma, or people who are near the end of life. There's all kinds of different categories. So with filling out the GSSW financial aid form and being as thorough as you can and answering those questions helps us have the best chance of finding something that matches your interests and your experiences as well. For the FAFSA and the CSS profile, these are two different ways to show your need level, the level of need financially that you have when it comes to higher education. The FAFSA form is one that for US domestic students, so those US citizens living in the US, that is the federal government's form for determining need level for higher education. There's also the CSS profile. That is a way for international students to answer similar questions that can document your eligibility for scholarships that have to have a certain need level ascribed to them. So they don't share with us all your financial info. We only find out a certain category of need level that you have, so that we can use that to match to different scholarship opportunities that exist. So those two forms are required in order for us to fulfill any kind of financial aid incentive, or to be able to consider your financial aid requests, because we have to use that information to be able to determine who's eligible for which scholarships among all of our incoming students and current students. For outside aid and other scholarship sources, you're going to want to look very closely at what they say might be needed. Often the FAFSA for any scholarships in the US, the FAFSA or CSS profile is pretty common to be required to have a sure and kind of constant way to show need. So that's going to be one that if you fill that out, that'll be helpful in a lot of different ways. Or if you're applying to multiple schools and Baylor's one of them, then taking care of that will be helpful no matter what school you're looking at. Now, Scholarship Universe is a resource too that I believe might come more in the slide, but as you get information about that, Baylor will be transitioning towards that. So that's one way to know that your information is in the system. Similarly, it's going to ask you lots of questions about the things you want to do and your background and where you've lived, because you never know when there's a scholarship out there that is just for somebody who has done what you've done or is interested in doing the work. So those are important things. It might feel like it's taking a lot of time, but the more time you give to those, the more we can find a way to match you to a funding source. So let's talk a little bit about figuring out how much you will be needing to pay when you come and how much will be able to, the aid you get will be a part of figuring those numbers out. So when you think about the cost of attendance, there's going to be tuition, it's going to be the bulk of that. That's the money you're charged per credit hour that you study. So our current tuition rate for the upcoming 25, 26 year. That's a little crazy to say. I've got to get used to that. But the one that you would be applying for to come to Waco would be the 25, 26 academic year. The tuition rate for that will be $875 per credit hour. Okay, so you can see there the standard and advanced standing program, how many credit hours they take total, but you're going to be looking at about 29 to 30 credit hours per year if you were going full time. Okay. So if you're trying to take our standard program because your major is something other than social work, or your social work degree is from not an accredited school or from a while ago, then you're going to be in our standard program. And if you go full time, you're going to do 29 hours each year. So you would take that 29 hours and multiply it by 875, and that would show you the tuition cost for the year. Okay. So usually about 13 to 16 hours per semester for 29 hours for the 2 semesters combined. That will give you your tuition cost. But then you also want to think about that's not the only money you're going to need when you are studying, right? You have to think about where are you going to live in Waco and what is the rent for that apartment or that house? What kind of bills will you be needing to pay? Utilities, so water, electricity, those kinds of things. You'll need to figure out how much will that cost a month, as well as food. How are you going to get around? Will you have access to a car? If not, will you live next to a bus stop? Will you be needing to use a rideshare system? Those are the kinds of things you want to budget for. And then even just with school itself, you'll have your tuition costs that we've talked about, but there might be a fee associated with the course. With our internship courses, there are $50 fees attached, and there's 2 of those each year, so a total of $200 related to course fees across the program. These are things that will be added to your bill, to your that you get from Baylor. Then the indirect costs are going to be those things like food, housing, those kinds of things. And then books, you'll have books that are required for each course. Some of them can be direct billed to your Baylor bill, but often those are things that you will secure yourself by buying them through an online source like Amazon or using the Baylor bookstore. So those are also costs to be thinking about beyond the tuition, okay? So when we're talking about the tuition discount that you might get, like, hey, congratulations, here's a 10% discount in tuition. That's just coming off of that 875 times the number of hours you register for, okay? And then scholarship dollars will be applied to whatever is on your Baylor bill. We'll take questions at the end in case that was a lot to try to make sense of. Okay, so that number sometimes can get people a little nervous, and use those nerves to plan, right? But not to deter you from trying to figure out a plan, because we have students come through year after year and they're figuring out a way between loans, between aid provided by the Garland School, aid from outside sources, working, and other kinds of support. They put it together. Usually loans are a part of that. So you may want to figure out if you aren't from the US, so US federal loans may not apply, what does it look like to find loans that do apply and are eligible for students that do not live in the US currently? But the Baylor programs can cost as high as over almost $2,300 per credit hour for the full Baylor tuition. So we're so pleased that we're able to offer at nearly a third of that the MSW program. So we really are an affordable program to have a Baylor master's degree in 2 years if you can join us. So we're really pleased with our tuition costs there, but we do recognize that still it is a challenge to figure those things out. So anyone who submits both forms, the financial aid form for us that answers questions about your social work interests, and then the need level things, the financial pieces, that's either FAFSA or CSS profile, anyone who fills those out can be considered for departmental aid from us. Now, following the certain deadlines, you can see the sooner you apply, the higher your scholarship potential. We will have deadlines to meet for completing both of those things for certain kinds of sources we're pulling from or incentives that we have. And if we don't meet those deadlines, or the closer we get without having those done, the harder it will be to match you to remaining funds. So we really want to think, once you're sure it's Baylor, you get that application in, you can already be working on those forms, or you can wait until you hear that you're accepted. But once you hear that you're accepted, you'll really want to work hard on getting those done as quickly as you can, so that we have you in those early groups that we're looking at funding sources for. Okay, I've talked a little bit about Scholarship Universe, but I'll let Jordan see if there's anything to add to that, as well as share some other things out there to help you with the search process.
Thank you so much. So now that we've kind of covered what our costs look like, how we allocate those costs, and what our options and then the need-based options are for making your degree more affordable, let's talk about resources that we can connect you with to start doing some of that work on your own while you might be waiting for an admissions decision or what have you. So the first thing I want to point out is the Baylor One Stop. They are called that because they are meant to be a one-stop shop. So they are student financial services for the entire university, and their whole job is to help you navigate this financial aid process. It is a very individual process. We know every single student and every single situation looks a little different, and they're trained to help walk with you through those differences to make sure that they're connecting you with all the opportunities that you need and helping you understand what your cost of attendance is. So I have included their contact information here. You can reach them via phone. They also have, I know we have a lot of folks joining us today from international locations. So thank you for making the effort and doing the time difference calculation to be here. We so appreciate it. They also have a contact us form on their website. If you just go to baylor.edu/SFS, and I'll put this in the chat as well. Then you can contact them there, and they are here to help. Second is the one that we have highlighted a few times, Scholarship Universe. So what I like to say about Scholarship Universe is that searching for outside scholarships is like looking for a needle in a haystack. So if an outside scholarship that applies to you is a needle, all the outside scholarships in the world are pieces of hay. Scholarship Universe is a magnet, and it'll pull that needle out that is just for you with the questions you answer. So it can be a little tedious to go in and answer all of these questions, but we do recommend you answer as many of these questions as possible because like Associate Dean Zuniga mentioned, we are starting to import Baylor scholarships in there as well. And there are a handful of social work scholarships out there for graduate students. So there is no such thing as putting in too much information. Put in all the information into Scholarship Universe, and it will match you with the scholarships whose criteria you meet. So that's a resource that continues to be developed. It's also a resource that's not going to go away. So it exists for prospective students and current students. The most common pitfall I see for students when it comes to financial aid is they push and push and push and then get to their starting semester and go, I did it. I got all the aid I could possibly get. And that's not true. You can continue to get scholarships, both departmental and outside, as a matriculated student. And there are processes for those that we have within the Garland School, but Scholarship Universe will not go away. You can continue to use it up until the semester that you graduate. So don't be like me and make it to your first day of class and go, okay, I did it. It's as affordable as it can be, because I almost guarantee that you can find ways to make it more affordable as a student as well. And the last resource I want to point out is GradSense. This is a website that was created solely to help students understand and prepare for the cost of graduate school. So they have breakdowns for cost of living, they have breakdowns for tuition, and things to be thinking about when it comes to some of those non-billable or indirect costs that you might need to prepare for. We also have some resources that help you prepare for those indirect costs, just to help you start thinking about what the total cost of not just getting your MSW, but also living in Waco and all that entails comes with. But GradSense is a great place to start when thinking about what that might look like for you. So I hope you've been ruminating on the question that I asked at the beginning of, let's think of grad school as an investment. Is Baylor worth your investment? I hope you've seen just from the resources we offer, the answer is yes, but we really want to make sure that we return that investment to you. So our graduates have over a 92% success rate. That means they are crossing the stage and then immediately going on to their next step, which is usually full-time employment. It can look like a PhD or maybe a different master's program to go and do some really cool specialized work. We have 7% projected job growth in the next 5 years, which is higher than average. We have some built-in networking and career preparation with our 2 dedicated career success professionals who are also alumni of our program. So they're here to help plug you in with job fairs, with opportunities to get in front of employers. And we offer licensure prep. Our first time licensure pass rate is 10% higher than the national average. So to be a practicing social worker in the US and in Texas, you have to pass your licensure exam. And our students are doing that at a rate 10% higher than students in the US. So I think that's more than enough to show that, yes, graduate school is an investment. It's one you should take very seriously and think through carefully. But our goal is that you walk away from this degree not burdened, but prepared for your next step. Another way I want to make sure that we are returning your investment to you. So one, if you have not applied yet, I would love to provide you all with an application fee waiver. And I'm going to put that here in the chat. It's going to be GSSW 25, which is exciting. So I know I have a few people here that I have seen you. I know you have your applications completed. If that's not you, then would love to remove the barrier of the application fee for you with this application fee waiver. And I also want to let you know that we are celebrating our 25-year anniversary as an MSW program here on the Waco campus. And even though it's our birthday, we want to give you a gift. So if you complete your application by February 1st, you do those forms and the CSS profile like we mentioned, then we are automatically going to cover 25% in departmental aid of your first year tuition costs. That is incredible. That's more than we're usually able to do, and something that I think you should definitely take advantage of, because after February 1st, that is not a guarantee, and it's just the general financial aid process. So complete your application by February 1st. If you need help doing that, you can reach out to our team, and we would love to use departmental aid in the amount of 25% off of your tuition for your first year. So hopefully that is helpful and makes you feel a little bit more settled in pursuing our program. But now I would love to open it up to questions. I already starred one in the chat that I wanted to speak on. So one question, does your admissions decision come together with funding? So I think you're asking, do we give you your admissions and your financial aid package at the same time? And that's a nuanced answer. So with the folks who get their applications completed by February 1st and get accepted, you're going to get confirmation on your admissions letter that, yes, you got that 25%. However, what that looks like, where that's coming from, we'll need a little more time to process your FAFSA, your CSS profile, and your GSSW financial aid form. We know that you're working really hard and those things take a long time. And so we want to do our due diligence in processing those documents. So you won't get your full financial aid package or your full scholarship letter until later in the process. But we do want to give you enough information upon acceptance that you can make a decision based on that information. That's a good question.
And then, correct, you can help me know if I'm saying this wrong, Jordan, but for those who would apply after that February 1st deadline, you would get a letter about your admissions or not, your acceptance decision, and then a deadline for when you would need to have, if you are wanting aid from the Garland school, when you would need to make sure those other documents are complete. Does that sound correct? That would
Yes,
be
I
a
think
note
so.
in the letter. Okay.
Yeah, we will communicate those deposit deadlines, and we would not ask you to put down an enrollment deposit unless you knew what that full financial aid picture was looking like. What else, y'all? While we're waiting for some questions, I would love for our lovely folks in this room to give these great students, let's say, maybe a piece of advice for students who are in this part of their journey and what your favorite thing about the Garland School is.
I can go first. Yeah. Let's see. A piece of advice in this part of the journey is to really think ahead about all of the logistical pieces that you will need to set forth, you know, when you get accepted somewhere, what are all the pieces you really need to consider, so that it doesn't take you by surprise when you come, you know, so when it looks like whether that's time that you need to plan on or whether that is, finances, really think through kind of setting a budget and a schedule, because if you do that, if you'll be once you set your budget, you'll be able to figure out what do I need beforehand, what do I need while I'm there, and how do I make sure I, you know, have the employment or those kinds of things to pay those bills while I'm there, and then also how to dedicate this, you know, time to studying and internship and things like that. So I would also say at this point, come to our other webinars. We have webinars not only about how to fill out the application, but keep an eye out for when there's something about the program itself or how internships work, those kinds of things. Kind of stay on watch for when there's going to be more information. When you get an email from someone with the Garland School, read it because we've sent it on purpose to provide you with information that will be helpful to you in having as informed a decision as you can. And then one of my favorite things about the Garland School is that I really do think students that come here see that it is worth the investment. Um, we make you work hard, but you come out ready. You come out ready to make a difference in social work. You come out with faculty members that know you by name and face, and you had real relationships with. You weren't just in a sea of, you know, 60 students in a big room and they don't know who's who, but they know you by name, they know your story. You really do get to know them and they get to know you. They become your mentors and colleagues, you know, for years. So I think this is really a place where you will feel like more than just a number, and investment will feel worth it. So that's one of the things I love about the Garland School. I'll let somebody else go. I also see some questions coming in.
The advice that I would give is kind of a counterpart, kind of a companion to what Melody was saying, is when you're budgeting, when you're planning and scheduling and getting, you know, into the minutia of all of the things that you have to do to be successful, don't forget the end goal, right? Don't forget because you're all here with a passion. There's something that's driving you into this field. And we don't want you to forget that at the Garland School. That's a flame that we want to stoke. That's something that we want to really bring out of you. And so, yeah, begin with the very end in mind, the kind of social worker that you want to be, the kind of practice that you want to have, and the kind of person that you want to be. Because that's my favorite thing about the Garland School is we're not just forming social workers. We are forming people. We're forming minds, bodies, and souls together in community and fellowship. Yeah, that's what I would say.
So I guess my piece of advice is just really being reminded that our community at the Garland School of Social Work is so dedicated to preparing social workers for leadership and service, both locally and globally. And our hope is that as you join our community dedicated to that, that you really recognize that 15-to-1 student to teacher class size ratio really provides a space and opportunity for your professors to, like Melody said, become mentors for the long haul. And that's so important when you go into social work practice, enter into your field education or practicum experiences, and really learn what the field of social work is all about. Because as you go from Baylor University and the Garland School of Social Work, you're going to continue to face various challenges and have questions about different things. And the Garland School of Social Work isn't just here for your time as a student, but we're also here as you go from this place as an alumni, making an impact in every sphere of society. And that the fact that like our ratio from faculty to student is 10-to-1 really speaks to the deep sense of care that faculty members do have for you as you transition to Waco, Texas, for our program. Or if you're inquiring about online as well, that we have faculty members there for you too. And so my piece of advice is lean into this process. That you being here in this webinar is another moment or a step closer and being a part of our community. And Jordan and Zach are just so dedicated to caring for you and coming alongside you through this part of your overall journey into the Garland School of Social Work. And so my advice is yes, like Melody said, reply to those emails, absolutely, and find reasons to schedule a time to meet with Jordan and Zach. They are absolutely incredible, just colleagues and really friends to this community. And that's what I love the most about being a part of the Garland School of Social Work. We have a Friendsgiving happening tomorrow, not a fun tangent, but it just speaks to our community and the hallways just earlier today in our living room. We were having an event that Dr. Beverly was hosting with some of our colleagues with Jimmy John sandwiches and just seeing family, community in our living room in the Garland School of Social Work, just having conversations about well-being and mental health and how to get through the next couple of weeks leading into the holidays and finals. And so we really are a community that deeply cares. And that's a community that you can lean in together right now with. And so reach out to Jordan, reach out to Zach. We look forward to getting to know you.
Thank y'all so much. And before I share mine, we do have a question about the graduate assistantship decisions. So for folks who submit their enrollment deposit by the date that we will share with you when you're accepted, you'll then have access to that graduate assistantship application when it becomes available. So I want to be clear, this is not something that's guaranteed, but if you submit your application no later than March 1st, which I know everyone in here will because we're all going to submit by February 1st anyway, then you will automatically have priority access to the GA application. So that means it's not guaranteed, but you will have to apply for and then interview for those positions. Now, with that said, I do help with that process, and I've never seen a student who needs a position not get one, but just be aware that's not a guarantee. So you do have to interview for and secure those. Because that is a longer process, we want to make sure we're matching you with the faculty or staff GA position that makes the most sense for you. This is likely something you're not going to know before you submit your enrollment deposit. So I wouldn't count on the GA position or let that be part of your decision to put down your deposit, because it is a little bit of a longer process. However, that is money that you get paid for the hours you work, and that money can go towards whatever you need it to go towards. So I know a lot of my GAs, they use it to pay for their rent and their groceries. Others have those things covered in other ways, and so they use that to start paying on some of those loans that are not accruing interest. So that money is yours to do with what you will, but it's not an opportunity that's automatically guaranteed. And then a question here, how much is the enrollment deposit? It's non-refundable, and it's $250 United States currency. That's a good question. All right. Then my piece of advice for y'all in this time of life would be to utilize your resources. So I was a first generation college student when I was at Baylor, and I didn't know what my resources were, much less how to ask for them. So I want to say here and now today, there is no shame in asking for resources, and they exist for you to use them. So please, it's why I'm here. It's why we're all here. We want to help and be a resource to you. So do not be afraid to reach out to us and ask any question. There's no such thing as a bad or wrong question. There's no question too big or too small. We're here to help for you. So utilize those resources. And my favorite thing about the Garland School is definitely the community. There's such a sense of unity among the students, the faculty, and the staff, and we can't wait for you to be part of that. All right, and then I see someone who says that your recommenders have not gotten an email for the recommendation. You can reach out to me directly and I can check on that for you. So I will put my contact information here in the chat. And you can just shoot me an email, Patricia, and I'll make sure that I take a look into that and send a reminder to the right folks. How many hours is an international student permitted to work per week? So we don't make a distinction in the GA hour assignments between domestic and international students. However, you're a student first, so most GA positions are going to be capped at 10 hours a week. I have seen some research assistantship positions at 15 hours because those align more with your academics and they are usually a little more rigorous. However, I would anticipate 10 hours a week. And the GA position, while you can use it to put payments towards however you are paying for your school, it's not something that's going to cover tuition. That's a question I just received via direct message. So there's not a single thing that we offer that's going to cover full tuition. But like I mentioned, the money that you get paid for your worked hours as a GA is your money to do with whatever you need to do with it. So if you want to start putting that towards however you're paying for your education, that's a-okay. Just know it will not pay for the whole thing. And our scholarship stackable. So I will let Associate Dean Zuniga handle that one.
Yes, I was just putting the website there for our Center for Global Education. They will be the ones to, when there's specific questions about international students, period, that are beyond just what the Garland School would require or expect, you know, for our degree, then they're going to be the folks that can help you navigate some of that. Are the scholarships stackable? So technically, I guess it depends. So you're going to get from us, when it comes to the Garland School departmental aid, an amount that we will say we're committing to this much for you, right? So as we've talked about, if you met that priority February 1st deadline, we're committing to finding 25% of your first year tuition costs, to covering that in one way or another. That might come from scholarships, that might come from tuition discount, it might be a combination of both. That's where you filling out those forms on time gives us a chance to commit, to fulfill that commitment. Outside of that, were you to also get something outside the Garland School sources, that would be separate. We would not change our aid. It's within the Garland School that we would be focused on that 25%. Now, if you were not a part of that first group and were getting a lower percentage of us, maybe let's say 10%, and you were saying, is there anything else I can have? Then we might look and see, can we also offer a few $1,000s in a scholarship? That would be added on, so that it would not be a percentage of what's left on your bill, but a tuition percentage of what you were charged for tuition. That's how the discount would work. And then scholarships. So you might get a letter that says, we're going to give you a 10% discount and a $4,000 scholarship. That's an example of a letter someone might get. And you could ask, you know, that might be a couple of scholarships we've added together to make 4,000, but that would be just from the departmental aid. If you also found a loan out here or a source outside of Baylor or something like that through Scholarship Universe that wasn't Garland School money or a social work specific money, those would be stackable on what we were offering you as well. It's not as likely to go higher than 25%. That is kind of the why we're so excited about it, is because usually we aren't able to offer that much to so many students at once, but we're committed to it for those who apply by our priority deadline as part of our anniversary celebration. So with that, I doubt we'd be able to do much more on top of 25% of what you're charged in tuition. But outside of the Garland School, you could add other things to that.
Thank you so much. And I think that is our time. So if y'all have questions after this, you can always feel free to reach out to us. We definitely encourage you to submit your application by February 1 if you haven't submitted it already, and to continue to interact with us at webinars, one-on-one appointments, over the phone, whatever works best for you. But thank you so much for spending some time with us today. We hope you have a great rest of your day. Thank you so much.